Hey, we're on there. So I'm gonna be painting and bitching. I'm gonna try to keep it on topic, but you know how I get. So we're gonna be talking about my favorite fucking thing, domestic violence. Okay, and ultimately how it relates to what's going on now in the world. Okay, uh, that shit's hard for me to talk about, but it needs to be said, and ain't nobody else got the balls to say it. So whatever. Uh, okay, so originally the idea of DV, domestic violence, DV, um, and even some child abuse situations were kind of seen as acceptable because women were property of the husband. You know, historically, women were property, and any debts incurred by the woman or the children, were then paid by the father, or the man of the house, whatever. So it became kind of an accepted situation. Okay, and that's kind of why these dudes, these guys in this, boys club, this motherfucker club is what I like to call it. They would turn a blind eye if their buddies did it because, he's the king of the castle, he's just taking care of his own, blah blah blah, right? Well, and in some ways, I mean that's just the way the culture was, right? Until they changed the laws, and then women weren't property anymore. But the culture never really caught up with the laws. Okay, and some people argue that it totally did. Oh, we've got feminists now, whatever. But even those guys still play the same fucking game, and we'll get to that. But save for these dudes that were just straight up angry and sick in the head, this general idea of power and control came from a place of wanting to take care of their community, take care of their house, basically, their house, their castle. Um, and so a certain amount of it was acceptable, and then it turns into this it is what it is bullshit, right? Like no matter what, and now you got your buddy, employing your buddy to help fuck over your wife, to keep her in line, shit like that, and they've created like this whole culture around it, this motherfucker club, and the fucking girls will get on it, it's like because they'll get a benefit from it. Hey, I'll kick you back, whatever it is, if you help me keep my bitch in line. Okay. Well, motherfuckers be pushing that shit to the max. Okay. You know, yes, there absolutely are some crazy ass bitches out there who do some crazy ass things. And sometimes motherfuckers just deserve an ass whooping. I know that better than anybody. But for the most part, they don't. And they're getting ass whoopings just because it is what it is, right? So then you got like women's rights movements, all this stuff, and they went branched on their own, but they kind of found the same way to do the same hierarchical structure of control on their own right, on their own route, their own whatever, on their own in their own little way. Um, you know, there's these feminist organizations and these that are still run by that same fuck you if you don't follow the rules kind of mentality because they know they won't be allowed to operate unless they, follow these rules of their patriarchy, right? So if you done fucked up, then, well, now you're over here in this camp, you gotta follow those rules, which is just the same fucking rules, it's meet the new boss, same as the old boss, but they're like a whole different set of fucked up rules, but it's all the same shit, it's so fucked up, you know? And there's like an incentive to like keep the game going. There's incentive for people that have like no involvement at all in your life and your relationships, but they will still get a kickback benefit for helping keep you down. Keep you under their thumb, under his thumb, whoever he is, whoever he happens to be. And of course that fucker gets a million times worse when he happens to be in a position of power, you know. And so in some ways you can even look at that and say, okay, I understand why they do it, you know. But the thing is, like, we're way past that shit now. Like, I've had these, you know, these guys, try to explain to me like, oh, well, sometimes you just gotta like protect people from themselves. That I can understand. I really do, because some people do need protected from themselves. There's dudes that will do this kind of shit and say it's to protect you from yourself, but it's not. It's just to control you, okay? And to keep their own control, for their own daddy fucking issues, you know, and they'll just take them out on you, you know. No, we've set up this like whole system of checks and balances to keep this fucking thing going, right? Um, and you know, and it's just like, you know, it would just blow my mind when I finally realized all this shit. And it's like, well, why would they just do that? Like, why, like, even guys that aren't abusive will still like support this structure because it is what it is, you know. Um, Fighting their daddy's war is what I call it, you know. Um, and I could never understand like why would, you know, guys I grew up with even like they were real stand up dudes, and it's like, how could you support this system? And then you realize that it's not about him and what he feels. It's just the way it is. And if he doesn't keep supporting this system, then he will suffer, you know. And if he aids or abets, you know, the enemy combatant, you know, then he'll get in trouble. You know, it's like negotiating with terrorists, you know. And when you're a woman, you know, a married woman for sure, and you stand up against this bullshit, you're an enemy combatant, you know. And when you get divorced, you know, it's like some people, I don't know how some people be like, oh, she took half my shit. Like, I've never actually met a woman that got half of anything. I know they're out there, but I'm just saying I haven't met any. You know, them Crown Vicks is what gets that, man. Not your average Joanne, you know, like me. You know, we don't get that shit. We get housing programs and, you know, if we're fucking lucky, you know, like, people like me don't get shit. You get on the street, you know, because I don't want to play their game. Like, I was always told it was my job to break the cycle, you know, and I thought it was, but oh well. But the thing is, there's just no breaking that cycle, okay? But now, okay, all these different tactics that were used over the years to keep the women in line, keep the smaller boys in line, keep the rebels in line, you know, of the black sheeps of the family, stuff like that. Um, it's turned into this fucking monster, man. Like, monster. And now what's going on with this like medical tyranny shit is like, you know, in the lockdowns and the, you know, that fucking president talking about, you know, it's one side versus the other, vaccinated against the unvaccinated or whatever it is. Like, God, that just blows my mind. Like, y'all created this shit. Your dad, your mom, your aunties, your uncle, your brothers, your sisters, you created this shit. You, the same, if you still support the same kind of shit, you know, and you're gonna end up, you're supporting this, but now you're gonna like, I mean, not you're supporting this, you made this shit. Like, this is unchecked capitalism, maybe. I don't know if that's the word or not, but it's just this unchecked like game of Monopoly has turned into this now. And so I see dudes that are like, you know, I follow some of these dudes that are out there reporting on this shit, and they're like, you know, we don't like this, and it's like, well, now you know how your wives feel, bro. Like, you know, I even got like blocked on this one dude's page because I said that. Like, now, you know, y'all don't like this, but this is exactly how you treat your wives. And then they blocked me, right? And then I see in this chat later on, like his wife talking like, "Oh, he don't let me go to these things. Like, he don't let me." Like, girl, do you you see what? It's just crazy, man. So the hypocrisy of that, of like supporting this fucked up system that got us here, and then crying about it, you know, and that just blows me away, you know. Like, fuck. You know, there's this huge part of me that's like, fuck all y'all, man. This is what you get, you know. But at the same time, like, I have kids, you know, and they're gonna have to live with this shit. And I'm here to tell you, man, when you are completely outnumbered and on your own and outgunned, like, what are you going to do, you know? And I know for my situation, I just needed one person to stand with me, at least one, you know, whether it was either to actually have my back and speak up for me or even just to stand with me so that I would feel a little bit more empowered to be able to speak, you know, even when my voice shakes kind of deal. But nobody would, you know. And the thing is, this is going to happen. I mean, it is happening right now, you know, it's going to happen to all of us, you know, and we're just going to have to take it, you know. That's horrifying, man. That's fucking horrifying, you know. And if we don't take it, then they're going to take our kids. That's just period, you know. And unfortunately, there's a lot of these men and women, you know, that they do have a little bit of clout in the community, a little bit of power, you know, under their belt or whatever. And they know this. They know what happens when you stand up against the system, you know, that you will get squashed like a bug, man, you know, because that's exactly the way they look at you. If you're not one of us, then you're against us. You know, if you're not with us 100%, then you're against us. And you'll get squashed with, like, you know, you'll be the, you know, fire and fury, like, you know, you would not believe will be like rained down upon you. And it's true. It's absolutely true from every angle, you know, even people that you would least expect it from. Like, it's crazy, man. And so, like, to see this shit going down and to know that there's no way out of this, you know, and to see like normal people that really have no idea what's going on and they're just blindly following this, thinking, well, if I just submit, if I just comply, it'll be over. But it's not going to be over. They're just going to keep like putting the screws to us, you know, until we're completely broken. And I don't mean just like our bodies are broken, but like our spirits and our, you know, our wills to live and stuff, you know. And then, you know, if we kill ourselves, there's no blood on their hands in their eyes, you know. This is crazy to me, you know. But you'd think that people would be taking a stand and say, I don't want this to happen to my kids. I don't want this to happen to my daughter. You know, I don't want this to happen to my gay son. I don't want this to happen to my emo kid, whatever. Like anything that makes you weird or an outlaw or, you know, marginalized in any way. You would think that these people would have like some kind of compassion. But I think that they're just scared, you know, because they know what's going to happen. Like they know what the system is capable of, you know, the powers that be, what they're capable of, you know. And I get that, man, because I know better than anybody what they're capable of, man. That reality is scary as a motherfucker. But it's gonna happen to all of us, man. That just blows me away, you know. And they don't want strong families, you know. They don't want strong individuals and with strong families, because strong families made up of strong individuals create strong communities, and that's a challenge to the status quo. You know, it's a threat to their power and control. You know, the system at large. You know, it really is, and that's why, for instance, that's why um, dealing with family violence or domestic violence is, you know, has been turned into like a weird twisted ass legal thing, you know, where, you know, if they, okay, so say for instance, these people that run the country, you know, what they have their Judeo-Christian values that this country was founded on, right? Okay. If they really had those values, then they would want nothing more than to keep the family together and to make them stronger and to be healthier than their families before them, you know. And most of us aren't rich. Most of us in this country aren't rich. Even the middle class, you know, they're even if in their little McMansions, they're all kind of paycheck to paycheck too. Their paycheck's just a little bit bigger, you know, more money, more problems, right? So if they wanted to actually, if those were if the actions were to reflect the values, then the actions wouldn't be to separate the family when there's a domestic violence issue. Because number one, like normally, no, No one wants, usually, especially if you're like married and you have children and everything, nobody wants to lock the abuser up. Unless it's like, you know, beating your ass within an inch of your life kind of deal, then you probably do. But for the most part, most DV cases aren't like that. They're, it's a push or a shove or a grab or a hit. But it's not, usually not beaten within an inch of your life or even death. But what they did was market it that way. That any little red flag, any kind of, and once you cross this line, like you're on the way to be a killer. And that's not the case. It really isn't. And, but they took this family issue that they helped create and perpetuate and then turned it into like this legal thing because it's a perfect excuse to take away arms, to disarm usually the man, or the woman in some of our cases, right? But it's a perfect excuse to disarm the citizen, put them in the system, the legal system. So the perpetrators, loses is no longer armed. They're in the legal system, which is feeding the prison industrial complex. And the state makes hella money off of this, right? And then oftentimes, if the family isn't well off, then the woman and the children need to rely on the state for services and help to get out of, to flee or whatever, which comes with its whole other set of problems. But say you don't flee, but you need help now. You need to get on, DSHS services, state paid medical, state paid childcare, um, Section 8 housing, HUD, you know, or even, there's smaller agencies and stuff that help with, Catholic Community Services, stuff like that. But it's all just one big fucking state run racket. It really is because they make so much money off of breaking up families. Okay. And what ends up happening when you have a broken family, especially due to violence, like you're tagged, man, forever, and your kids are tagged. And I know y'all don't believe me. That's fine. Someday it's gonna be all up in your face, and you ain't gonna be able to fucking ignore it. But the kids are tagged. You know, uh, and there's in there the perpetrators out there that like the child predators and stuff, absolutely target children from broken families, children living in poverty, especially children from women that have reported abuse because that challenges their narrative, or their narrative and their power and control system that's already been established. So if we it's their fair game is the way that these predators look at these children is their fair game. Not only are they fair game because they don't have a dad around or whatever, but also it's going to be perfect because then we can make an excuse, or not an excuse, make an example out of these feminist women, because as soon as you say no, like you're branded a feminist. As soon as you say no to your old man, or you resist in any way, you're a ball busting feminist. So, but it makes an example and punishes the woman, you know. And that's, if you want to punish a mother, you want to reach a mother in any way, man, you fuck with her kids. And unless they're just completely checked out, and there's a lot of people that are completely checked out, that addicted or just fucked in the head, who will just go along with it and be like, well, it is what it is. And for a lot of people, that's how they do, man. And these people are just taught that it's okay to fuck fuck with people that are damaged goods. And nobody will, because they know that nobody's going to stand up next to them. They know nobody's going to stand up for them. Even these advocacy groups and stuff, which I've worked for, and I know, okay, come at me, bro, I fucking know. Even those advocacy groups will only go so far to help so much, because once they realize that you're not falling for the shit, they'll turn their fucking back on you. Oh, your application for the shelter? Yeah, we lost it. Sorry. Reapply again. You know, oh, your application for housing? Oh, I don't see you in the system. All kind of shit. It's just crazy. Okay, so if these, and that's how it goes. And it really is a matter of, if you can't take care of your own, we'll take care of it for you. And we're going to take care of it the way we want to take care of it. And how they want to take care of it is to make money off of you, make money off your kids, make money off, incarcerating someone for, someone who most likely, like, has their own fucked up issues, their own mental health issues, even, that just need some treatment, like actual treatment that's effective and works, not punitive, shame based punishment, but treatment and a program of recovery, you know, and the programs that they have out there for what they call perpetrator treatment is super fucked. It does nothing to like touch the roots of violence, why violence is wrong. I mean, why? I mean, yes, violence itself is effective on its own, but in the context of family violence, it's completely counterintuitive to what you're trying to do if you're trying to have a family. Unless you're just raising a kid just to have a punching bag, that's a different story. But most people go into having a family, they fall in love, they want to have children. It's just the way we do. We're as animals, um, the human animals. Propagate your species. Um, but the treatment of that dysfunction, that abusive mentality, that has been ingrained to a lot of us, a lot, especially a lot of men. Um, it needs to be treated. You know what I mean? It needs to be, people need to be educated out of that belief system, educated out of their, preconceived notions of gender roles and um, tradition, and there's not to say anything bad about traditional values because there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with traditional values, you know. But this world is no longer conducive to traditional values because you can't just have a woman at home taking care of the children, while the husband goes to work to make the money. And because, like, look around, man. I mean, yeah, some people can, but for the most part, who can afford fuck, man. My mom had to work like three fucking jobs growing up, and uh, anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, but you probably understand what I'm saying. So, but back to where I was originally heading with it is about like breaking up the families and putting them into the system. If you don't take care of you, we're gonna take care of you, and we're gonna use you. Whether we're going to use you to launder money through the state like these agencies do, and I guarantee you, they all fucking do. It's all one big racket. Um, and it's to traffic your fucking kids and you. I mean, really, and the father even. Either way, it's to traffic the abuser, to traffic the victim, and to traffic the children. And make money off of them, in house. But we've been working that system now for ages, ages. And now it's turned into this. you know it's turned into this shit that, like, the same system that, and I said this before, the same system that would lock up a woman for hysteria because she got an argument with her parents, or an argument with her husband, um and then lobotomize them and shit, or give them shock treatment or whatever. This is the system that you guys are like putting all your faith into and calling it trusting science. No, motherfuckers, we trust the science. We don't trust y'all. We don't trust systems and agencies that actively work to break up families just to fucking help them launder money. And that's really what it's all about. None of this shit, none of their interventions about violence, family based violence, or DV, has shit to do, fuck all to do with breaking a cycle or stopping violence. It's just perpetuating it in a different way and making money. Period. You know? Ah. And it's one big vicious cycle now. And now we're all we're all reaping the fruits of this fucking poison tree that we've helped, that our fucking forefathers planted, and we've all been watering it with our fucking blood. Okay? And now this is the fruits of it. Now we're all fucked, you know? And now we're all fucked, and we're all in this big fucking fight club, of like, you know, beating each other down and reporting each other for fucking social distancing violations. And it's just like, sometimes, I see people like arguing this stuff, and, I try not to believe most of the things I read on the internet, number one. And I don't get out much because, crazy. Um, and I know that like a good 70% of things you see online written by people, comment sections or whatever, is just bots and people lying. I mean, just straight lying just to push an agenda. But there's a lot of these people that really fucking believe this shit because they've bought it. They've drank the Kool-Aid. That Kool-Aid is poison. Like, they all died. Remember? It's not like drink the Kool-Aid and you'll be okay. And we think it's like, take this shot and you'll be okay. You'll be allowed back into society and whatever. It's like, it's not. This is going to keep going. This bullshit. It's going to be travel restrictions and, I mean, DV on a large motherfucking scale. The whole world. And we're okay with this? Like, or in our answer to this, to like protest and stuff, is to go out there and shoot each other, little guys? Antifa and Proud Boys shooting each other because they think they're bucking the fucking system? Are you serious? Like, ah, that's literally what they want. They want us at each other and killing each other. This is fucking McCarthyism 2.0. Except for, and everybody's like, oh, McCarthy had it right because he went after the commies. He didn't just go after the commies. That was like barely. It was, I think that was just kind of a smokescreen because it wasn't just going after commies. It was going after anybody who dissented, anybody who was different. The long hairs, the gays, the women who didn't want to be raped by their husbands anymore, who didn't want to wear bras, I mean, like anyone who deviated from the system, anyone who stepped out of line was a target of that McCarthyism. And we're still there. We never got out of it. I know people like to say, like, oh no, make America great again. It's never been great. It was great for a few of y'all because y'all were in the club. Most of us were never in the club. Most of us will never be in the club. And guess what? It's going to backfire on all of you too. It already is. It already is. The same dudes I see saying, I will let my wife go do this, is now standing there bitching, about the same stuff that they're perpetrating on each other, and their own women and their own, people they don't like or whatever. And it's like, you really don't think this is going to come back to bite you in the ass? Like, it's nuts, man. And I hate to be like, oh, I told you so, but I remember when they were taking me in to the hospital, when my old man called, and I was losing it. Don't get me wrong, but there was a lot going on, man, and they could tell, you could tell that they could tell exactly what was going on in the house, that I was being hurt, and that nobody could hear me scream. And I remember telling them, like, face bloody from the cops, hair, like bald spots because they ripped my hair out, crying my eyes out, begging and pleading, please, just one of you. All it takes is one of you to just stand up and say, this isn't okay. This isn't okay. And it just takes one of you to stand up and do the right thing. You know what they all did? They put their head down in shame and turned away because they saw their mother staring them back in the face. They saw their daughter, their sister, you know, their old friend from high school who was dead because of her old man or whatever, like saw this, but they know that their job depends on upholding this system, you know. But I saw it then that this was coming, and it's not like a prophecy bullshit. It's like it's just math, man. I saw the way my old man was under somebody's thumb, and so he was perpetrating his violence on me. And I knew that if I kept taking it, that I was going to start perpetrating violence on my kids. Because I saw what happened with my mother. And I saw what happened to all the women I used to serve, Like, and I couldn't do that to them. Like, it was already bad enough that I, had them in there in the first place. But I remember seeing that this was coming. I didn't see it exactly it was gonna come like this, but and I just remember thinking like and saying, like, it just takes one of you just to stand up and say no. This isn't right. Because as soon as one of you does, then it's gonna give the courage to your next guy, your partner, the other guy, even your higher up is gonna be like, because everybody has hearts, especially those fucking. And I fucking hate cops, but there's just people. They're just fucking people. Seriously, and I could see it in their eyes, that they didn't want to have to do this, but they had to, you know, and that they knew exactly what I was saying. But how do you stop a train? You know, like, how do you stop a train that is just no brakes barreling downhill, like, and that's exactly what it is. And that's what this all is. It's just one big fucking train being pulled on all of us. And we're just going to take it, you know? And then our excuse, we're going to posture and go out there and fight with other proletariat, other motherfuckers, like, and then call it a fucking revolution. That ain't a fucking revolution. One little fucking gang shooting another gang in the street is not a fucking revolution, man. It's fucking theatrics. It's Fight Club. It's bullshit. It's one big fucking. It's just one big fucking DV, man. It really is. And I know I get some shit sometimes for like, well, you look at everything through that lens. Kinda, yeah, because I've lived it my whole life. But it's fucking true. Every tactic employed by an abusive partner is exactly what's going on. And it's exactly how they keep us in. That's how they kept us in control this whole entire time. It's how they've groomed us to get to this point to be able to shut down a whole fucking country, to shut down the whole fucking world, man, and make people homeless, to make people lose their jobs, and then to force them into getting experimental drugs. We're not even allowed to take street drugs, but we're allowed to take China's experimental drugs. Like, and it ain't nothing about, fucking being a racist against China. Like, fuck, we all in this together, but dude, seriously? Like, we need to be fighting those guys, not like each other. These fucking dumb faggots in the street. Like, come on, man. Ah, makes me, makes you want to do some shit in Minecraft, let me tell you. But anyway, man, I, they need to find a way to, uh, maybe everybody does see it and they just don't care, you know? They probably do because they know there's no sense in fighting it. Because what are you gonna do? How are you gonna fight the fucking government? You know? I mean, the Taliban didn't got away with it and a bunch of guns and shit, but we're not the fucking Taliban. We're just fucking red-blooded Americans who want to fight for this shit. And not because it's some bullshit about traditional values, but because rights and ideas like freedom and ideas like liberty, those aren't just fancy words that, y'all think rednecks say on NASCAR Sunday, dude. That's real shit. Even even the natives that we came in here and fucking genocided, they believe in those things too. Like, most of us, like, if you're gonna go and like colonize another planet, you're probably gonna base your governing system on things like that, like freedom and liberty and justice for all, and all men are created equal, shit like that. Now, did we do that here? No, but the idea was a good idea. You know, Maybe they knew somewhere down the line, a bunch of us would quit following this fucking Sky Daddy bullshit and realize that all men and women are created equal. You know, are did we turn out equal? Not so much, some people are just pieces of shit. It's just the way it is. But they're raised in a really fucked up system. I mean, I'm more surprised that there is more good people in the world than bad because these fucking rules are fucked up, man. And I get having rules for. I get rules. I understand. I understand laws. I understand the need. Even my most anarchist, you know, moments in my head, I still need a governing body right here to keep me in line. Not a governing body out here imposing their ideals on me, but I need to govern myself. There needs to be a government in here, you know, keeping me doing the right thing, keeping me from going in and enacting my own justice on my abusive ex. You know what I mean? Like, you have to think, you don't want to end up in jail. You don't want to hurt other people, you know. Vengeance, yeah, sounds great. But, like, does the God inside of you really want to do that? No, it doesn't. The justice or vengeance sure does sound good to me sometimes, don't get me wrong. Um, but I would never want to do that to another human being. I wouldn't want to do that to my kids. I mean, and that's the government inside my head, my own governing body inside my head saying, you know, your values. Do you value freedom? Sure do. Do you value liberty for all? Yes, I sure do. Do you value justice for all? Yeah. Okay, well, me enacting my own justice would probably take out those other things. So, sometimes you gotta have rules in your own head. And sometimes we have to have rules out here. I get that. So it's not just fighting power just to fight the power and fighting the rules because I have a problem with authority. I don't have a problem with authority. I have a problem with fucking abusive authority. Authority that abuses their power. You know, authority that says, oh, I'm just laying the smack down on you because you went out and racked up bills in my name because you're a piece of property. But then just, you know, you didn't cook the dinner hot enough. So now I have the right to beat you. You're like, no, you don't. That's just not the way that works. That's abusing your authority. And I know people say that that is the culture we live in. It really is. Women are still property. Children are still property. Even though in the rules it says we're not. We are. Because if you know, everybody says it, then that's the way it is. Majority rules, right? Democracy. And if the entire country says, that's what you get for not obeying your old man, okay, guess that's what I get. It ain't right. It definitely doesn't reflect the fucking values of that flag. That's why the motherfucker's upside down, see? But I value those values. I value those ideas. And I think that deep down, everyone does. Even the woman in Saudi Arabia who wears her hijab, you know, um, because she fully believes in, her God, and she does it out of respect for her God and her family and whatnot. Um, she still values her freedom. Um, she still values her liberty. She still values her privacy in the shower. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain things that those are like inalienable rights, man. Like God given. Allah probably wants you to be free too. I think those guys are just scared of women's power, but that's a whole different story for another day. But anyway, I went on long enough. Our government is an abusive husband, and we're all getting bitched. We're all getting punked right now. And the only way we're gonna get out of it is if everyone stands together. Seriously, that's it. Even then, I'm not sure how. I mean, you can't really go after the government itself per se, but I still believe that if everyone stood up together, that they would have no choice. You know, they would have no choice but to listen. You know, because it's still we the people. Don't let daddy beat you anymore. Don't let daddy beat your neighbors, you know? And don't take it. That's the biggest part. Don't fucking take it anymore. Because the more you take it, the worse the next one is going to be. Because you just think, I just take this beating, it'll be over. And I'll make dinner and everything will be fine. But it's always going to get worse. So it's just the nature of that beast, man. So, yeah. That's what I got to say about that.